Well, listen, welcome everybody. Uh, we're back in operation. We haven't been on for a while. What the heck? You got COVID, you got this, that, you got all kinds of stuff going on. Forget all that. We're going to get back into some interesting topics. And the first one has to do with CB radio, but not just CB radio. And as soon as you say CB, Tom, I don't know what you think of, but man, I remember back when you and I were first licensed in the 60s, I guess.
60s,
And
yep. Long
and
time ago.
long time ago. And you get into ham radio then, and suddenly you start hearing these terms like criminal band. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Around 1958, the FCC takes away the 11-meter band from the hams. They're going to turn it into the Citizens Criminal Band. I can hear the directors of the ARR go pounding their shoes on the table, going, they're taking away our band. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, people got upset. We're going to have this thing called the chicken band.
Chicken
the
band,
criminal
right?
band.
Criminal children's band.
The children's band. Yeah, I mean, there was. Yeah. Now let's not go back into all of that in terms of whether or not it was right or wrong for what the FCC did, but they created CB. Okay, back then, as you said, in the 50s. And so the other month, Tom, I decided as a ham, I was going to go listen to the CB band. Now, I've got an ICOM 7300. I've got a couple other receivers and all. So I look up the frequency.
I admire your daring do.
I look up the frequencies, channels. You have to go into channels. And I go down there and I start listening in. And I listen into the Super Bowl, which is all these people with high power AM causing all kinds of interference. And I say, this is crazy. This is crazy. I'm not into Channel 6. I'm not into this. 6. But then I start tuning in some other channels, some other frequencies, and I hear some interesting conversation. And I hear some people talking about this and that, and talking about their rigs and talking about their antennas. And suddenly I'm wondering, wait a minute, what's going on here? This doesn't sound like CB the way I remember it. And it certainly doesn't sound like the Super Bowl and CB radio. What has it become? And so I'm doing some work here in my home office where I also have my ham set up, and I just leave it on a couple of channels to listen. And suddenly I hear this guy talking about the fact that he's a ham radio operator too. And then I hear the guy he's talking to saying, yeah, well, I'm a ham too. You can't find anybody there to have a decent conversation with. And they're complaining about ham radio as a CBers. Yeah. And they're making the same kind of complaints that we used to hear the hams making about CB, or maybe we still do. Yeah. And I'm listening to some more. And over the course of a couple of weeks, listening to numerous channels, sideband, I hear all kinds of people talking about the fact that they are also hams. And get this, Tom, many of them are using IC 7300s.
Yep.
Okay, that they've converted over.
Okay.
And that got me. Okay, so now all of that got me thinking, why is this happening? Why are these licensed hams, even if they have technician class, they can be on the low end of 10 meters, okay?
Right.
They don't have to be on 11 meters. And I'm thinking to myself, something is going on here. And so for a number of weeks, I listen in on this, and I say to myself, there's something about the lure of those CB frequencies that hams are not tapping into as well as we should be. Now, I know that's going to get me in trouble with some people because they're going to say, we don't want these CB operators, on ham radio or whatever. I'm not going there at all, Tom, because I've heard a lot of these intelligent people who have ham licenses saying that they're not going to get on 10 meters or 17 meters or whatever. They like the conversations they're having there on CB. Are you surprised that I heard that, Tom?
Not at all. A couple of factors here. I think that digital radio, ham radio, has taken away a lot of the conversational part of the hobby. I also think that CB and ham radio, I mean, they're both great hobbies. They kind of complement each other. CB is more of a localized media. You get on 10 meters, you get on 15 meters. I mean, maybe you're talking to somebody on the other coast. Maybe you're talking to somebody in Europe. How much of a conversation can you have versus having a regular group, a bunch of guys, aka the drip net, 10 meters, 28.9 megahertz at 9 p.m. every night that we used to do. That's CB radio. And for localized communications, it can't be beat. And I think that's why a lot of hams like you and I, or maybe more I than you, um, would get on CB just to have a general, localized, kind of like community neighborhood conversation. And, you know, yeah, you can go nuts. You can use an IC 7300, or you can use a typical 4 watt AM CB 12-watt sideband. You can pick them up for under $200 and have yourself a nice station, and that's including the cost of the antenna. So
So what about
if you
all
don't
these
want it,
guys that are talking long distance, though, Tom?
yeah, skip shooting.
Yeah.
But are they actually having a relational conversation?
No, they're not.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
So
is that something
the
like,
remember Herb Cups in it, the art of
oh,
conversation,
yeah,
the
the art
art
of
of
conversation,
conversation.
Chicago. Yeah.
Okay, that's something that for the most part I've experienced in 50 odd years of hamdom. That's kind of gone by the wayside.
Okay,
Um,
so let's do another video later on how to have a conversation. I know that sounds crazy, but I hear a lot of hams that don't know how to have a conversation. And I get on, I call
True.
CQ, talk to some guy, and I realize that I'm the only one asking any questions.
Right.
But that's for another video. So I'm
Okay.
listening to all of this, and I do run across local groups on 11 meters, particularly in the evening in one place or another, listening in on them, having conversations like we used to with our 10-meter group back in Chicago.
Right.
Now, some people would say 2 meters, but 2 meters typically you get into repeaters, and you got all kinds of people listening in and all. It's not quite the same, I
That
think.
that and you're hogging that and you're hogging the repeater.
Yeah, you're hogging a repeater if it's going on. Now, I got to thinking that a lot of this skip shooting on 11 meters is somewhat like digital communication. You get with digital, you go in, you got a couple of buttons to hit on your computer. You send this, send that, bop, 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 and you're out of it. It's very
Well,
quick.
right, and that's just like DXing on phone or CW or FT8. You get on, you give a signal report, your name, maybe your call sign, your location. You know, see you later. And skip shooting is the same as doing DX. I mean, how far can I get with my rig? I mean, other than those Channel 6 Super Bowlers with their megawatts, okay, I mean, I remember when I had a CB in my car and the old trick of backing up to a lamppost to use it as a vertical reflector to see how far I could shoot with my 5 watts,
That's funny.
that's part of the thrill of the game. That's another part of the game, other than being a conversational mode.
Oh,
You do it.
all right.
How far can I go with my little rig?
So now you're into something that I really wanted to get to and hope that we would get into this, have totally unrehearsed as usual with these cockamamie videos. So, that is the thrill of radio, the thrill of HF radio, the thrill of signals going through the air, and you don't know how far, and you don't know who you're going to pick up. There's something about that connects, I think, with the
Right.
human being, and
Right.
that those channels are always there, and you can hop in for a few minutes and see how far you can get and hop out. And it's very tough to find an equivalent kind of quick radio. How's my signal doing? Who can I connect with in the ham bands? Would you agree with that?
Well, to an extent, I mean, we always had the DX hunters on CW sideband AM. And now it's digital. And for example, FT8. I don't know. Have you ever operated any of the FT8
Oh yeah,
modes, the FT modes?
sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You get on your computer, you look at a bunch of calls scrolling through and their location. You jump in there, dump in your call sign, your signal report, your call and location, and you get a signal report back. And that's kind of thrilling after a while. Okay, and then it gets kind of repetitive. And
Yeah.
I do it just for the same reason you're stating, is just to see how far I can get. And I'll go on and I'll start out at 10 watts and I'll crank it down to a half a watt just to see how well the propagation is.
Great. So
Um,
I'm going to call this a particular thing, Tom, that maybe some contemporary hams won't connect with, and that is the walkie-talkie effect. The walkie-talkie effect. When you and
right.
I were kids in Chicago, I remember I bought a night kit. I think it was a C100 walkie-talkie.
C100, channel 14,
C100,
one
channel 14.
100 Wilmots. Yeah. Well,
I think it was only
and that's
35 milliwatts.
no, it was
Maybe it was
I think
100.
yeah, I think it was 100 milliwatts. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, that's basically, I would guess, how both you and I know me, got into ham radio. We started out as SWLs. We heard a bunch of hams chatting. Um, the Park Ridge News Company that I carried newspapers for had a city phone CB that they used to contact the trucks with. Um, I got my C100 for Christmas. I learned to solder on the thing and actually make a piece of electronics work. I was in the Boy Scouts and I had to get a radio merit badge, so I had to learn CW. So I had all these great powers. I could solder. I could put together a radio. I could operate CW, and then I eventually got my novice ticket. But it was the CB that actually led into ham radio, and now I'm finding I'm kind of flipping back the other way. I don't
Yeah.
have an IC 7300, but I do have a broken open Kenwood, and yeah, I can tune the free band and I can tune the CB band. But actually, when I do get on the CB band, I use a authentic CB rig, okay, rather than violating
Mm.
the powers that be.
So we had our C100s, and we would chat with other kids in the neighborhood a
Yep.
block or two away, and there was tremendous excitement with that. That's
Yeah.
kind of the walkie-talkie effect.
Right.
And that walkie-talkie effect lives today on the CB band. And I would say, based on what you have said and my experience too, it lives in the digital modes that, you get on, it's low power. Who can you work? It's fun. You don't have to commit yourself to a long-term conversation. And so much of CB today, including all the skip shooting guys, some women out there too, really, really get into that. Now, I've been wondering, is there an equivalent of that besides the digital modes on the ham bands? That got me thinking a little bit about some of these 40-meter groups like Midcars
Yeah,
and
I remember them.
yeah. And so there are still some of these groups where they favor mobile stations on 40 meters, but 40 meters is, pretty much a band that you can count on to be open somewhat year round throughout the sunspot cycle. And so you can check in and you can listen for a while. You can get a report if you need it. There's that kind of thing. We could talk about 7,200, at least in the Midwest. You get some guys on there. Some of them are clownish, and there are a lot of QRMers and so on. Some people would say, well, that's kind of like CB. But actually, when I listened to the CB channels, I didn't hear so much of that kind of the bad stuff on 7,200. And so I'm not sure I would compare that. But then I was on 17 meters and tuning around a few months back, and I ran across a group called the HF Activity Group. Now, we like to be somewhat practical in this podcast of ours here, And so when I ran across this group and I checked into what they were doing, the HF activity group, I thought, this is interesting. It started capturing for me the walkie-talkie effect on the ham bands. And it seemed to me something that would attract a lot of people who are hams that might otherwise go to CB for the walkie-talkie effect. And so what I thought I would do, Tom, is show you this live. I'm not going to bring it in and listen to it, but they have a website that you can go to, and they start, well, I'll show you what it is on the computer here. Let me just pull this up. It's really fascinating. So here we have, I'm going to go to full share mode on this so everybody can see it, and we can talk over it. So this is their website right now, live, the HF activity group. And I'm going to give you the website for it. It's hfqso.com, hfqso.com. And you can see right now these stations that are listed here that are checked in. And so the first person, Tom here, is one of their so-called, I don't know what you call them, net control or whatever, they're in charge here. A K5VW moderator. That's it. Thank you. Moderator. Much better term. Everybody on this list IDs every 10 minutes. And you can go to this website and you can check in here. And I want to show you on the bottom of the site. I don't know how well you can read this on the YouTube video here, but here's what they do. They start out on 181575, 18 megs at 1730. And then after a while, they move up to 21 megs here on 15 meters. And then they go up to 24 megs and then eventually 10 meters. And you can check in when they're on one or the next. And you can also see who's checked in here in the list. And we're going to look at this. This is going to throw boggle your mind. I'm going to go to the live map. And this is showing us a map of where the stations are that are checked in, both in the U.S. You can see the U.S. map here, and down below that, you can see somebody, it looks like they're in Costa Rica or whatever. I can't see it real well on my computer screen here, maybe southern Mexico. So, and it explains what to do here. And I really like what they're doing. I absolutely love this, the HF activity group.
I don't see the map, Quinn.
You don't see the map here. You see it now?
I don't see the map. Nope.
Okay.
I see the current call list.
Okay, so let me switch over here. I'm going to have to, yeah, I see what happened. It opened up a new thing window on my computer, a new window. Yeah. So let me remove this one. And I'm going to go to a different one. Got to stop that screen. I got to go to a new one. Oh man, this is high tech. I tell you, man,
I got to unplug this. I got to unplug that. Where's that 1/4-inch plug? Oh, where's my 1/8-inch adapter?
Oh boy. So there's the map. You see that?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So that's one of the maps that shows there's a guy out in Hawaii there, some people south and so on. So you can see where people are. And when I was on a couple of days and then listening, and after that, there was always a guy from Ireland, a guy from Hawaii, typically on there and all. And so at some point in this group, Tom, they do something very interesting. They will, they'll say, okay, you're next on the list. And you can see them following down the list while you're watching on the web. And it's your turn. And they say, okay, Tom, WA9 TDD, you go for it. And then you come on, you say, this is WA9 TDD in Florida or Indiana, wherever you are, who's hearing me? And then anybody out there who's hearing you says their call, typically in their location, usually by state or country, and they give you a signal report. And it's not that everybody jumps on everybody else. They take their turn and they run through it. And then you can see, you can hear too how other people are hearing you in different parts of the country and the world. Now, before they start the official net, there's conversation. And there's some conversation during it as well. They'll ask each other questions, how you doing here, or what's going on, or somebody will say, hey, listen, I want to tell a group I'm running a new rig, this, that. Can I get an audio report too? And it seems to me it's the walkie-talkie effect, and it's organized through the web as well as online, and they're testing out the band conditions on different bands, and they're having fun. They're very respectful. It's a great group. So what I want to do is give a shout out to the hfqso.com, the group that's out there, and hope that others will see this video, get on the web, listen to them. You can get the frequencies there on their website, hfqso.com. What do you think of that, Tom?
I think that looks a lot like PSK Reporter. Of course,
Yeah.
PSK Reporter is entirely digital modes.
Right.
But you could get on PSK or FT8 or any of the other FT whatevers and plot on a map where you are, how far, or who's heard you, how far away they are, what's your signal report, and so on and so forth. However, there's no conversational aspect to it. But I'm not quite following what you mean by walkie-talkie effect.
Yeah, so let's go back to that, because that's
yeah,
my
let's
academic.
back up a couple of thousand. Yeah.
Okay. The walkie-talkie effect. So you got two kids with walkie-talkies, and they say, wow, I can talk to somebody through the radio. This is fun.
Cool.
Okay, cool. It's a walkie-talkie effect. I think it's a primordial impulse. Okay, we could do it through smoke signals. We could do it through night kit.
Yeah.
We could do it through night kit C100s. It's the walkie-talkie effect. So one thing, you can think of ham radio as just having a lengthy conversation with somebody. You can think of it as the 2-meter repeaters, or you can think of it as the digital modes and so on. But there's a walkie-talkie effect that I believe attracts people, including licensed hams, to CB, and they don't often find that same kind of walkie-talkie effect on the regular ham bands most of the time. So we form different kinds of groups, like frequency for digital modes, or like this HF activity group that has the walkie-talkie effect. What do you think of that thesis?
I think that's like Quinn. I'm on Lee Street and Brown Street. I'm going to walk a couple of blocks east and see if you still hear me.
There you go.
When I get to River Road, give me a signal report.
That's it. So you're on the HF activity group. Who hears me? And you're looking at the map, and some people do, and some people don't. You're not 1 block away. You're 2 blocks away. You're a couple of countries away. And on CB, when I would listen in to those, to bring it full circle now, when I was listening in for a while to some of those frequencies, people would get on there and they'd say, this is 007 in New Mexico, and a guy would say, 007 New Mexico, this is 541 Delta in the southern part of Louisiana. Hey, buddy, you got a copy on me. Come on. And they would go back and forth.
What's really fun is talking to some taxi driver in Guadalajara.
Yeah. Well, let me wrap it up with this real story about a guy who claims he is. So the real walkie-talkie effect. So back when you and I were first licensed, there was a period in there early on where 10 meters was really hot. And I got on with my HT40 single 6146 running AM on 10 meters with some piece of crap antenna. And I was on there and chatting away with a few guys because the sunspots were rocking, man. And the walkie-talkie effect was rocking and rolling. And I run across this guy in New Mexico, and I'm talking with him. It turns out he is using a converted night kit C100. He tweaked that sucker, got it on 10 meters, and he's on his bicycle going down the street. And I'm in Chicago, the Windy City, Chi-Town. And I'm saying, what's shaking, man? What's shaking? and we're two licensed hams with the walkie-talkie effect, having a ball.
Yep. So it's possible. It's skip shooting with a C-100. You could write a book about that. Hey, that's an idea.
That's an idea. All right.
Yeah, there you
all right.
go.
We will do a
The
thing.
follow-up
We'll
book.
do a video on my new book too, on Gene Shepard and all. We'll do a video
Okay.
on that soon.
Okay.
All right. So
Oh.
so gang, this has been Ham Radio Perspectives. If you find anything, if you find anything valuable here about what we're doing, subscribe
You're more
to this.
creative than we are.
Subscribe to this YouTube channel. We have given up trying to be respectable with this channel. So don't expect respectability. We're here to have fun. Ham radio is one of the best hobbies ever created. It's part of the primordial instinct that we have to commune with one another across geographic space and sometimes even through time. Figure out that one.
Wow. That's pretty profound. One thing I've got to say, in my mobile, I've got both VHF, UHF, and CB radio. And the most useful is the CB radio.
You only put all those in though, so your wife wouldn't be able to sit in the car with you. I know.
No, because then I say I have something to listen to other than her. But CB, the Citizens Band, is the most utilitarian radio I could use in the car. You never know who's on a repeater, but there's always somebody on the CB. If I want to know where the nearest Buc-ee's is because I'm in need of a brisket sandwich, all I got to do is get on channel 17, and I'm sure some trucker will come back and tell me it's 36 miles away, and I need gas anyhow. So that's my take on CB. They're both great communications devices with their proper places.
All right. The walkie-talkie effect. Think about it, gang. There's truth to that. This has been Ham Radio Perspective. I'm Quinn, K8QS.
I'm Tom, WA9 Tango, Delta Delta.
Okay, don't forget to subscribe and give us some feedback down below. Tell us what a great job we're doing. Adios. 7-3.